Welcome in, let's pull apart one number. Look at this number, 88. That's how many ships cross the Strait of Hormuz on an ordinary day. The IMF's Portwatch project counts them one by one. Now look at July 2026. In the week to the 20th, Lloyd's List Intelligence counts 53, not per day. For the entire week. The largest oil supply loss ever recorded is happening inside that gap. And oil is cheaper than it was in March. Somebody closed that hole. It isn't who you'd guess. So how do you lose a fifth of the world's oil and not lose the world? What filled the gap? And why did it still reach your wallet? As of July 2026, the answer is a country nobody nominates. Watch for it. I'm calling it the missing buyer. That mechanism is the reason I'm making this video. It's 4 March 2026 and Iran declares the Strait of Hormuz closed, not a threat. A blockade with warships. Look at the map, 21 miles across at the pinch. About 20 million barrels a day of crude and products move through it. 1 in every 5 barrels the world burns. Squeeze through a gap you could see across. By March, the International Energy Agency puts flows through Hormuz at under 10% of pre-war levels. Under 10%. Let's keep score because this whole story is one subtraction. Start the world at roughly 100 million barrels a day produced. 100 million burned, about 16 million cubic meters of liquid. A cube a quarter of a kilometer on every side, every day. That conversion is mine and it's rough. Now the IEA reports Gulf producers cutting output by at least 10 million barrels a day. The oil has nowhere to sail, -10. 1 barrel in every 10 the world burns gone. The World Bank's Commodity Markets Outlook April 2026 calls March the largest oil supply loss on record. Not the largest since something, on record. So the price should have gone vertical and stayed. It didn't, why not? You'd think you just send it around, and they do. Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline runs from Abqaiq to the Red Sea. CNBC reported in March 2026 it's pumping flat out at 7 million barrels a day. A third of everything the strait used to carry. The Emirati line to Fujairah is good for about 1.8 million more. Call it a tenth of the strait. But watch the arithmetic because here's where it goes wrong. Those pipes were already running before the war. The IEA's figure for what Fujairah actually gained is 450,000 barrels a day. So plus 0.45. Still -9.5. Fine, open the emergency tank. On 11 March 2026, the IEA agrees to release 400 million barrels. The largest coordinated stock release in its 50-year history. Enough to run the entire United States for about 20 days. Keep an eye on the man who announces it, Fatih Birol. In April 2026, he tells CNBC, "We are facing the biggest energy security threat in history." America pledges 172 million barrels of it. Out of a reserve the EIA measured at 413 million. 40% of the tank. Call it +2 a day and that's an estimate. 400 million spread over months. Still -7.5. A reserve is not production, it empties. So I went looking for whoever replaced those barrels. Here's what I found, nobody did. Look at the other side of the ledger instead. China is the largest oil importer on Earth. In February 2026, it takes in about 11.4 million barrels a day. By June, Chinese customs data puts it at 7.12, down 41% in a year, the lowest since October 2016. 4 million barrels a day of buying gone. That is almost the entire 1973 embargo, running backwards. And there it is, the missing buyer. But how does a country stop buying oil? Because in May 2026, it starts drinking from its own tank. The EIA estimates China was sitting on around 1.4 billion barrels, more than the government stockpiles of the United States, Japan and all of Europe put together, with 500 million barrels to spare. Read the ladder down. America's reserve, 413 million barrels. Japan's 263. Every European government combined, 179. China, 1,400 million. It isn't quite like for like. Most of China's is commercial, not state-held. The EIA says nobody outside China can audit it. Still, oil it did not have to buy. So the shock doesn't break you, it bills you, watch the pump. The EIA has the American average at $4.48 a gallon in May 2026. The third highest month on record, behind only June and July 2022. By 13 July 2026, it's $3.86, better, not fixed. Over the year to June 2026, the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts petrol up 26.7%. All energy up 15.7%, headline inflation at 3.5%. And who does that hit first? Not everyone equally. The Bank of America Institute found that in March 2026, the median lower-income American household was spending 4.2% of its income on fuel, up from 3.9% a year before. Not 0.3 of a percentage point. A small number, and it is somebody's groceries. Now the comparison everyone reaches for. It's October 1973. The embargo pulls about 4.4 million barrels a day off the market, roughly a quarter the size of this one. It still gives America queues around the block and rationing by license plate. The flow disrupted this time is about 4 times the size. Your queue never happened. The missing buyer is why. So let me open the box. The largest oil supply loss ever recorded. The thing that absorbed it was not a pipeline, not a strategic reserve, not OPEC. It was one country choosing for its own reasons, not to turn up at the auction. Look at what that actually means. Every market has a shock absorber. It is almost never the thing built to be won. It's whoever can afford to walk away. That's the missing buyer, and once you can see it, you'll see it in rents and electricity, in your own job market. Every time a price stops climbing and nobody can say why. And I owe you one honest sentence. I've spent this whole video on straits and stockpiles. The world absorbed this by consuming less. Somewhere less was not a choice. It was a household deciding between the tank and the shopping. But look at that tank again. It has a bottom. China is drawing its stockpile down toward a floor it has never published. The American Petroleum Institute expected Chinese imports to begin recovering from late July 2026. So here's what I want to answer next. What happens to the price of everything on the day the missing buyer comes back? If this made it clearer, subscribe so the next one gets made.